Welcome to Doctoring the Truth, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on healthcare gone wrong. I'm your host, Jenna Tennell, and with me is my delightful co-host, Amanda House. We're two doctors of audiology here to bring you inside real-life cases where once trusted healthcare providers veered off the ethical path into criminal territory. Amanda!
Jenna!
Hello!
You!
How are you?
Thriving. How are you?
Thriving in your summer vacay.
I know.
Meanwhile, we're waiting for a freaking tornado.
Yeah, I know. So today was
touchdown.
the first day of my summer break where I actually didn't have anywhere to go or anywhere to be or anything to do, which was really nice, except it rained all day, which, whatever. But yeah, so that was nice.
So it's finally sinking in.
Not quite yet. Still feels like a
Not
vacation.
quite, yeah. Yeah. Well, for me, it's life as usual.
Sorry about that.
With the exception that, yesterday was Father's Day. Shout out to all the father and father figures out there. Hey,
Shout out to you, dads. We love you guys.
So we spent Father's Day sheltering in place.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not funny at all.
No.
But there was a gunman on the loose. And,
I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard about it, right?
Yeah, and it's probably going to be old news by the time people hear this. But anywho, that kind of put a blight on our day. But it could have been, I prayers to the families that are affected. And violence is never the answer. And also, it was a learning opportunity for my daughter, who was really interested in the $50,000, prize if you. If you get some information that led to the arrest of this arsehole. She was like, listen, we have a big tree house in our yard. He's in the area. If he, what if we make it look super attractive? And then, do we have to split the money if someone else has a tip?
She's like, listen, let's lure him to our tree house because this is an immaculate hiding spot, sir. And then I can get some money.
The trees.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I wonder if the gal that actually saw him down by the culvert or whatever, I wonder if she will get $50,000.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
I mean, first of all, just for the trauma of having to see
I know.
something like this. But also, I love that there was it was a drone over him and he just surrendered when he saw the drone and nobody got hurt.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, he had written this note to his housemate about how he was going to die. And I was thinking, oh, goodness, death by cops. Somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody else is going to get hurt because obviously we lost 2 lawmakers tragically over this. So, he's in custody.
This is just my own opinion that I'm going to say quick and we're going to move on. Wow, his roommate sure likes to talk to the press. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we all have our time in the limelight. That's not a time that I would revel in necessarily, but I'm telling you this when I was actually kicked out of court on Judge Judy. So I'm just going to leave everyone with that little tidbit. I'm not going to say any more. Listen, that'll be a Patreon. We'll talk more about how you can find me on Judge Judy getting kicked out of the courtroom.
Little Easter egg for you guys.
Right?
I should find a clip of that and put it on our social media. Just kidding. I won't do that too.
Yeah. No, please don't put the link on there. We need some incentive for people to see me in the most shameful moment of my life on public television. Yes. It's worth it. So, do we have any corrections for your episode? I feel like
I don't think so.
I did on your episodes.
Oh my gosh, stop. No, right? I had yogurt and snowmobiling.
Okay.
I did have a lot of people reach out and say that they were laughing along with us and that it was really fun. Fun for a not a great thing, right? obviously
Yeah.
we're talking about people that were hurt
Yeah.
and taken advantage of
Yeah.
and whatever. But yeah, people were like, well, I was laughing along with you guys. So
I mean, we were laughing at him, not with him.
and I listened to it back also, and I started laughing again so hard. That was a really fun one. I mean, yeah, to make fun of him. What a doozy.
Yeah. I mean, what a target. He made it easy for us.
Woohoo, get naked.
just that reporter's tone when she was like, ooh, are you taking her clothes? And then she took a look at him. She was like, holy hell.
She's like, oh my God, spear all my eyeballs.
Guys, listen to episode 20. If you haven't already, it's a hoot and a half. Yeah, hold on to your pants for that one.
Because someone else
Speaking
didn't.
of episode 20, we are now at episode 21. We are old enough to drink.
Oh, cheers. Clink,
and
clink,
here
clink.
I am. Clink, clink.
Oh.
A little glass.
Oh,
And
I've got my Aquafina.
okay, there's Miss Pure over there with her Aquafina, and there's me with my white wine in a champagne glass because, if anything, I am.
If I had a glass of wine while I was doing this, I'd have to pee like 3 times.
Well, anyway, here I am being classy. So cheers to
She
that.
classy.
That's right. Listen, when I'm not drinking wine, I'm drinking coffee. We'll tell you.
I love the segue.
Thank you. We can't shout out Strong Coffee Company enough because they deliver premium instant blends for people like me and you who want convenience without compromising their health, and in fact, helping their health. So the signature black instant coffee packs 15 grams of protein, 5 grams of MCTs, and 250 milligrams of adaptogens, including ashwagandha, for sustained energy, focus, and calm without the jitters. If you like it creamy, your lattes can contain collagen, hyaluronic acid, healthy fats that are blended with organic Arabica coffee. With eco-friendly practices and fast delivery, Strong Coffee fuels your day deliciously and powerfully. Elevate your coffee routine with Strong Coffee Company. Enjoy an exclusive discount.
Is a discount, baby.
With our promo code Stay Suspicious for 20% off your order at strongcoffee.com. That's Stay Suspicious for 20% off at strongcoffeecompany.com.
Thank you.
So today we are going to be talking about another deadly dentist.
Oh yeah, I forgot we were going back to dentistry. LOL. Next week we're not though.
Do you watch or have you watched Seinfeld?
Yeah, like not enough to quote it or anything. Have I seen the show yet?
Have you ever watched the episode about the dentist?
No.
How Jerry was accused of being anti-dentite?
Oh wow. Well,
No.
I'm on summer break, so I can try and find it.
Okay, yeah, no, it's super funny, but like Jerry was mad that this dentist converted to Judaism for the jokes. It's a good episode. Anyway, and then the dentist accused Jerry of being anti-dentite, which I didn't, that's a thing. It's a made up thing, but we're not anti-dentite, folks.
Nope.
We just,
We love dentistry.
yeah. But there is the primary source for today's episode is a book by Anne Rule. Ever heard of her?
Yeah, once or twice.
Stranger in the Dark. Yeah. So this book is entitled Too Late to Say Goodbye. And there are other sources that'll be listed in our show notes. The trigger warning for this episode is that there are going to be mentions of domestic abuse.
Hate that. Thank you. I mean, thank you for the warning.
I know. On December 4th, 2004, in a quiet and well-to-do neighborhood in Gwinnett County, Georgia, a couple named Kelly Como and her husband Steve were asleep in bed. It was 7:30 in the morning when they awoke to a frantic knocking at the front door. Kelly flew down the stairs in her bathrobe in a panic, sensing the desperation in the knocks. She discovered little Dalton Corbin, 7 years old, sobbing in his pajamas on her step. Dalton lived across the street with his little brother Dylan and their parents, Jen and Bart Corbin. Kelly ushered him into the house and folded him in her arms. "What's wrong, honey?" she asked. Dalton was so upset he had trouble choking the words out. There's something wrong with my mom.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know this story?
No.
This story? Okay.
Well, I don't know. Not yet.
I think they made a Lifetime movie about it too, so some people may have heard about it, but I haven't watched the movie. But anyway, Kelly felt her heart skip a beat and her stomach sank with dread. She and Jen were friends, and she knew that Jen and Bart had been going through a difficult patch in their marriage. She followed Dalton across the street to the Corbins' house. Even her intuitive sense of dread couldn't have prepared her for what she found in the family's master bedroom. Jen, lying on her stomach, diagonally across the four-poster bed, limp and unmoving, blood dripping from her nose and her head. Her platinum blonde curly hair was stained red with blood. She wore only a nightgown with straps fastened by safety pins. Kelly didn't need to check for pulse. It was evident that her friend was dead. Kelly immediately grabbed Dalton and plucked 5-year-old Dylan from his bed. She asked Dalton where the family phone was, and he pointed to the cordless phone on their dining table. Dalton said that he'd already tried to call 911 with it, but that it didn't work. Kelly tried as well, and the battery was dead. The three ran across the street and called 911 from the Comeau's house. Investigators discovered a gunshot wound to the back of Jen's head, just behind her ear. The gun was next to her outstretched right arm, about 3 to 4 inches away from her fingers. And interestingly, the barrel of the gun was partially covered by the bedspread. On the nightstand, they noticed an open bottle of wine and an almost empty glass. As they examined the bed, they realized that there were some papers underneath Jen's body. Those papers were later discovered to be divorce papers. There didn't seem to be any signs of forced entry to the house. No defensive wounds on the victim's body, no signs of burglary, and no indications of sexual assault. The investigators' first conclusion was that this was a suicide. But there were a few issues with this assumption. First of all, the position of the gunshot wound posed an awkward angle for a self-inflicted shot. And then there was the location of the gun. How likely was it that it would land underneath the covers if Jen had shot herself? This seemed to defy gravity. And the sad part is that there was an unlikelihood that Jen would have killed herself in a shabby, pinned-together nightgown. So obviously this is not a hard and fast rule, but women tend to not shoot themselves, and at the very least, if they do, they're going to think about how they'll look when their bodies are found. Not for vain reasons, but because they don't want to leave a mess or traumatize the person who finds them any more than they absolutely have to, which is, sadly, why a lot of suicides occur in hotel rooms.
Oh my gosh.
I know, this is so morbid.
I always wonder, I wonder if there's ever... Okay, never mind.
Yeah, you're right, when you're in a hotel room. Is this one? Yeah.
If there's some swanky business ever going on in there, and then I've never thought oh no, I wonder if this has happened there.
And it's not like they have to disclose it to you.
I know. Oh God.
I know. Ooh, I'm spoiling a lot of things for a lot of people.
Your upstairs neighbors actually aren't loud. That's just Ricky.
Ricky the ghost.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. We need a little comic relief now and again with this tough subject material. Jen's face was covered in blood. She wore a ratty nightgown and no makeup. Would she have wanted her 2 little boys to find her in this condition? Not likely. This looked staged to look like a suicide. The wine, the divorce papers on the bed, and then there was the 911 call. During the call, the dispatcher had asked Kelly to put Dalton on the phone. The dispatcher asked if there was anything in the house besides him, his mom, and his younger brother. Dalton was matter of fact. Yes, my dad was home, he said. He's the one that killed my mom.
Oh.
When questioned further, he stated he didn't actually see or hear it, but that he knew it was true because of the way his dad had been acting recently, always mad and yelling at his mom.
Mm-hmm.
CSI swabbed Jen's hands to test for gunshot residue, and detectives immediately set out to track down Jen's husband, Dr. Bart Corbin, DDS. Bart was nowhere to be found. Jen's devastated family tried to reach out to him to help provide support in absorbing this terrible news. When he was unable to be located, Jen's sister Heather and her husband called Bart's younger brother Bobby. Bobby's tone was weird. It was unnatural. When the family members asked if Bart was with him, he stated yes. But when they said, oh, okay, well, are you on your way over, like, to get the boys? He stayed silent. No response. Meanwhile, Bart's traumatized little boys, Dylan and Dalton, were still at the Camo's house across the street. Like, what the hell, Bart?
For real, Bart.
I don't know. You don't want to check on your traumatized kids real quick, my dude? You know, since they just found their dead mother's body in their home? I mean, nothing sus here.
Not a happy Father's Day to you, Bart, right? You dick.
This is how an innocent husband behaves when his wife is shot to death? Mm-hmm. Methinks not. Since Bart showed no interest whatsoever in being with his boys on the scariest and most traumatic day of their lives, Jen's sister Heather went to pick them up herself. Gwinnett County Police finally got a hold of Bart at his brother Bobby's place, but Bart refused to talk to the police directly. Instead, he made them play a ridiculous game of phone tag with Bobby acting as the intermediary. Bart, they need you to come in for an interview, etc. Big stinking coward that he is.
Right?
Bart's brother... I know. It's ridiculous.
What a weenie.
Bart's brother Bobby provided an alibi for Bart, stating that the two of them had been out drinking the night before, so Bart had come over to Bobby's place to sleep it off, and that was all they would say about it. No more questions answered. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, Jen's family was adamant that she would never have taken her life, let alone in a situation where the boys would be the ones to find her.
No
Not
kidding.
in a million years.
A mom would never. No.
Can you imagine? No. Mm-mm. She had to have been murdered. Eventually, Bart showed up at the police station with a lawyer in tow for his interview, looking extremely put out. Here was a man who just lost his wife, the mother of his children, but he was just irritated. Police swabbed his hands for gunshot residue, knowing he had plenty of time to wash them thoroughly by that time, but they did it anyway. But let's put a pin on the investigation for now, and let's learn more about the people behind the story, Jen and Bart Corbin. This is definitely a case with unexpected twists and turns.
We love that.
Right? Bart Corbin grew up in the 60s in a typical middle-class Southern family. He had two brothers, a fraternal twin, Brad, and a younger brother, Bobby. There's so many B's.
Brad, Bobby, and Bart.
Bobby. Bart got along best. I'm still using the alliteration here, folks. Bart got along best with Bobby. They were both extroverted and popular, while Brad was more reserved. Ann Rule's theory was that a particular sex ed class had a formative effect on Bart Corbin, helping to shape the view. I know. Wait till you hear this. She felt this helped to shape the view of women that he'd carry on with him for the rest of his life.
Oh.
Yeah. So Bart had this...
Okay.
You want to hear it?
Sex ed class was really impactful for him. Got it.
Tell me how you feel about this. So he had this real Southern conservative man as his teacher that told the boys in the class, look, girls don't enjoy sex. They hate it. So if you're a considerate boyfriend, you're never going to try to talk them into it because they hate it like poison. So have mercy on the poor things, okay?
Oh my gosh. What? Okay, like a teacher these days could and would never.
So, yikes. I mean, the teacher was very close to an important conversation about waiting, about consent, but he made it so weird and almost traumatizing. So after this, Bart was laser focused on ignoring sex and impressing his dad about sports because his dad was super sports focused. And Bart was embarking on a football career because he was 6'3" and 240 pounds. If he'd stuck with it, he probably could have played for a small university, but he decided he wanted to attend the University of Georgia in Athens. He walked on the field during his freshman and sophomore years, but he ended up having to drop football because he couldn't keep up with the rigorous practice schedule and study at the same time. So, born in Gwinnett, Georgia, Jennifer Barber grew up tall, statuesque, and full of energy. One of those people who stand out from the crowd everywhere they go. She was a high achiever and yet down to earth. She was close with her family, including her parents and her two sisters. Heather was her younger sister, and Rial was her older sister. Jen was like her mom. She was creative and passionate about art. She got a degree from SCAD, which is an unfortunate nickname because it stands for the Savannah College of Art and Design, but it just sounds like a scab. I don't know. SCAD. But Jen was so good at so many things, it was difficult for her to settle on a career choice. I will say, I go by Jenna, and I spell my name Jenne, and Jen Barber spells her name Jenn, and so I had to keep correcting spell check during this. And the one that I forgot to check until the very last minute was Jenna was good at so many things.
Oh, well, like, it's true.
Oh, wait, no, I can't say that. But Jen was so good at many things that it was difficult for her to settle on a career. So she attended nursing school for a while after graduating and then landed a job as a bartender at an oyster bar, which is weird because I also have been a bartender at an oyster bar.
Wow.
I know.
I hope you don't end up murdered.
No, me too. Well, you know what? I've lived a good life. I've been there, done that. I feel like, you know what? But unfortunately,
okay, what?
Okay.
No.
Well, we're digressing. I obviously am not going to get moited.
So Jen's at the oyster bar,
yes,
making tips.
Yes, she likes it. She
Enjoy,
was 25. She was only 25. She wanted to enjoy life, and she liked working at the oyster bar. Am I going to have to cut some of that out?
I don't know.
I think I probably will.
Oh, well, I've lived a good life, so fuck it.
So fucking come and murder me, people.
You're like, invitations on the door may disturb. What?
What the hell's wrong with me? Why would I say that? What is wrong with me? I need my head checked.
Didn't you have therapy today?
I did, and I had therapy today. What the hell's wrong with my therapist?
You need to schedule another appointment.
I do. Oh, man. Yeah, let's go on. That's going to get cutting room floor. Okay. All right. She was 25. She wanted to enjoy life, and she liked working at the oyster bar. She was famous in town for her kick-ass white Russians. Dessert in a glass. I love that stuff.
So good.
It was at the oyster bar that Jen met 31-year-old Bart Corbin. Bart's brother Bobby worked at the same restaurant as well, and Bobby introduced Jen to his brother Bart. By then, it was 1995, and he had graduated from dental school, and he was now Dr. Bart Corbin. Dr.
Bart.
Jen found Bart a tall drink of water. He was taller than her, which was difficult to find since she was a tall lady. He was good-looking, well-educated, well-off, and well-dressed.
Wow. Just very well-to-do all around.
All the wells. He worked out regularly, and he was a member of Mensa, which some would say, wow, super smart. And others would say, wow, serial killer. I don't know. Take your pick. There's a nice smattering of each in Mensa. But anyway, he was a catch. And at the beginning of their relationship, he laid the romance on with a shovel. He love-bombed the heck out of Jen. It worked. He took her to a conference in Italy not long after they began dating. So romantic. Meanwhile, neither Jen nor his family knew that Bart was secretly seeing other women, including one, who was 20 years his senior and his office secretary. Cliche much?
Oh, wow.
His office secretary was, by the way, married with kids.
Of course she was.
So perhaps Dr. Corbin wasn't as besotted with Jen as he appeared in public. Shortly after their trip to Italy, Jen announced to her family that she was pregnant.
Oh, shit.
She said that she and Bart had talked about it and planned to get married and raise the child together. The wedding was hastily planned, yet it was still a beautiful occasion. There was a minor fly in the ointment, though. Jen noticed that Bart spent a lot more money on his wedding ring than he did on hers.
What? Weird.
You ever heard that before?
No, my husband wears silicone wedding bands.
Jen's ring was pretty, but simple. Bart's was set with big diamonds.
Interesting.
What an ass. When she mentioned it to him, he said, well, I have an image to maintain now that I'm starting my dental practice. People expect it. And I put in my notes, insert derisive snorting here.
I mean, yeah, that's interesting. But if you're also trying to, keep up with this facade in public, then wouldn't you want your wife to have a big old shiny rock too?
Yeah. Like, what the hell, Bart?
Because now you just look like a narcissistic douchebag. Oh, wait, but his wife was never around because he's too busy sleeping with his secretary.
I think you're getting the picture here.
Mm-hmm. I known a guy like this once.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Also, this has shades of, what's her toes? The Mercedes car gal.
Clara?
I can't, Clara.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shades of Clara
Harris.
Hubby. Yeah.
So after the Corbins were married, they moved to Beaufort, Georgia. Georgia, sweet Georgia.
Georgia.
Where Bart opened up his own practice. They were all set to have their baby and start life as a brand new family. Brad continued his extracurricular activities, however. One of his girlfriends advised Bart that he should marry Jen when he found out she was pregnant. The girlfriend, which was the married one, attended their wedding. And their families would sometimes hang out together. This affair went on for decades. Yikes.
Did Jen know this?
No.
Oh, God.
Another thing Jen didn't realize was that Bart was hardly at the top of his class.
Of course he wasn't.
He's sweet by in dental school, and his parents seemed to pick up the slack, using their money, because they were wealthy, when necessary to bail him out or boost his chances.
Dumb. That's exactly why he had to stop football, because when you read that, like, to focus on his studies, I was like, good for him to focus on your studies, but it's kind of one of those, like, if you wanted to, you would things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could have done both, but you didn't have the drive. So I'm not shocked you weren't at the top of your class, Bart.
Yeah. When it doesn't serve him anymore, it's not worth the effort, right? That's to serve a purpose, like, beyond what normal people do. So, all right, I didn't put this in the warning, but I probably should have. It's a warning about dentists, not to be anti-dentite, but if you have a phobia of visiting dentists, you might want to skip ahead like 30 seconds. Most dentists are trustworthy, excellent, and essential healthcare practitioners, but this guy was not. Okay, so one woman saw Bart for crowns on her front teeth. She found Bart very reassuring at her first appointment. He assured the patient that he was skilled at placing crowns and told her not to worry about anything. So she came back for 2 sessions, both of which ended up lasting twice as long as he said they would. Dr. Bart was a hot mess the whole time. He kept getting flustered and sweaty, yelling at his hygienist and swearing under his breath. He appeared completely off the rails. Not a good look for a professional, let alone someone rearranging your teeth.
Yeah, and like right in your face.
I know. At one point,
literally in your mouth,
the poor patient started hemorrhaging during the procedure and choking on her blood. Dr. Corbin just dropped his head in his hands and said he didn't know how to stop the bleeding. He finally said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, what?
What?
I am sorry? That's what you're just gonna stop? Anyway, the patient...
What?
I know. He just was like, I don't know how to stop the bleeding. Sorry. I'm sorry. So the patient leapt out of the chair and ran out to find an emergency dentist who, of course, fixed her right up. And then Bart had the absolute cojones to send her a bill for $2,000 for this trauma. Oh, wow. I cannot with this man. So she, of course, disputed and complained about this to the state board, and they wrote off the bill, but why didn't the board didn't discipline him? I don't understand that. That disturbs me. He just went on practicing incompetently. Anyway.
Yeah, wow.
So Jen was joyful in the first few months of her marriage to Bart. She was so excited to be a mom, and then the love bombing abruptly stopped. Now that she was under his control, Bart got to work on his emotional warfare. He picked on everything she did. He controlled what she wore, how much makeup she put on, and told her not to paint her nails. He got angry when she cleaned the house when he was home because it was taking time away from him, but yet he expected the house to be spotless and dinner on the table when he was home from work.
Mm-hmm.
He criticized her and called her names like bimbo, telling her
no.
that she'd never be his equal. He liked to remind her that although he'd chosen her as his wife, he was a doctor, which meant that he was the superior being and the one in charge.
What a douchebag.
Additionally, he was an absolute miser when it came to money. Jen was not allowed to spend a dime without consulting him first. He was known to fly into a tantrum over $10, which is a pittance on a dentist's salary. And just in case you were...
Yeah, for a doctor.
For a doctor. And just in case you're still on the fence on how to feel about this douchebag, and we both chose that word, and I think it's apropos.
We're the same.
Jen had a sweet old yellow lab named Sebastian.
That's so cute.
I know. Sebastian had been her dog for years before she ever met Bart. And Sebastian got along with everyone. Everyone except Bart. They say dogs have a sixth sense about people, so this is a good example of spot-on intuition. Anytime Bart got close to Sebastian, the dog would snarl and growl, which was totally out of character for him. Bart hated Sebastian just as much. One night, not long after the wedding, Jen called her parents in a panic. She told her parents they needed to take Sebastian because Bart would kill him if she didn't get the dog out of the house right away.
Wow.
Shocking. Like a lot of people in abusive relationships, Jen found ways to explain Bart's behavior to herself, ways to forgive him and hope things would get better. I've been there myself. It's not as cut and dried as it looks. And then Jen had her first child, Dalton. She loved Bart, she loved Dalton, and she wanted that family life. Like most empaths, she learned to read the room and avoid Bart when he was in a mood. Like any situation, as I said, life isn't black and white. They had good times. They got a houseboat, which they docked next to Jen's parents' houseboat, where they would have barbecues and swimming parties together. However, tensions were high, and Bart resented the time that Jen spent caring for baby Dalton. He was impatient with the baby. Red flags abound. Over time, Jen began to realize that her marriage wasn't normal. She asked her sister Heather once, "Do you ever wonder what your husband did or who he knew before you met him?" Heather was like, "What do you mean? You don't know that stuff about Bart? I know everything about my husband." Another time she said to Heather, "Don't you wish you could just give your kids cereal for breakfast sometimes?" And once again, Heather told her, I do that all the time." Jen told her that Bart wouldn't allow it. He said to Jen that if she wouldn't cook for their child, he would find a woman who would.
Oh my gosh.
Ugh. I mean, he's like the perfect soap opera villain, but without the charisma. Nevertheless, in 1998, Jen found she was pregnant with their second child. She was delighted, and she hoped that Bart was too. She bought a silver rattle to give to Bart to let him know the happy news. It did not go well. Instead of getting excited and hugging his wife, he threw the rattle across the room and left in a huff. I mean, this man may have been a dentist, but there's a rotten cavity where his soul should be. Shortly after Dylan's birth, he got a vasectomy, and he continued to grow more and more possessive of Jen's time and resentful of the time she spent with their children. Meanwhile, our dude carried on having multiple affairs while Jen was a supermom. She baked and helped out at the kids' school and drove them around to all their activities, while Bart was an unwelcome presence at the kids' Little League games because he'd scream at his kids from the stands, worried about how their performance reflected on him. It's Little League. What?
Yeah, brother.
Yeah. The other parents would roll their eyes, and Jen was mortified. But Bart may have been extra cranky because, and this won't surprise you, his work wasn't going great.
Oh, shocking.
Turnover was high.
I'm sure he was a stellar boss.
Right? He had a temper like a gas leak, silent at first and then explosively volatile. One moment he'd be calmly polishing his tools, and the next he'd erupt, hurling insults like dental instruments in a storm. His voice, once soft-spoken for patient reassurance, became a weapon wielded against his staff, sharp, cutting, and unpredictable. New hires would walk in with starched scrubs and hopeful smiles, only to leave weeks later with frayed nerves and whispered warnings to the next unfortunate replacement. It wasn't just shouting, it was public berating, deliberate humiliation, a need to assert dominance over anyone within reach of his volcanic moods. Some said the autoclave wasn't the only thing overheating in that office. Ba-dum-bum.
Ba-dum-bum.
As the years passed, all of this began to take its toll on Jen. And in 2003, seeking an escape from reality, she discovered an online role-playing game, RPG, called EverQuest. EverQuest was a game where you could team up with other adventurers online and go on these quests, racking up treasure, fighting dragons, etc., like an online Dungeons & Dragons. At first, Jen played mainly with her mom, who was also into the game, but then Jen started interacting with other players, especially one with the username Sir Tank. She and Sir Tank started chatting about their lives, and before long, their conversations shifted from the game to emails.
Oh, no.
Yep. Jen soon found out that her new friend, Sir Tank, was a sweet, funny, kind-hearted guy named Chris. Jen fell hard and fast. Chris was everything that Bart wasn't: attentive, compassionate, understanding, and emotionally available. Soon, Jen confided in Chris about all the issues she was having with her marriage. She told him about the emotional abuse. Chris was horrified. It turned out that Chris lived in Missouri with his sister, and he helped her raise her children, which he loved. Jen began to daydream about what it would be like to be with someone like Chris. Chris seemed to be as into her as she was into him. They began discussing a future together and making plans. Bart began to notice a change in Jen, and that she wasn't fawning all over him, trying to calm him and falling victim to his moods. There was no more placating or walking on eggshells around him, and she stopped sleeping with him as well. He slept in a different room. He made her skin crawl. Bart cringingly reached out to Jen's family, complaining that she shunned any physical affection from him.
Weird.
Gross, dude. Jen's sisters blew him off, but her mom, Narda, tried to talk to Jen. Jen told Narda that Bart disgusted her and that she was leaving him. Jen began discussing the possibility of moving the boys to Missouri and joining Chris. She was planning an escape. She obtained a credit card in her name and squirreled away a couple $1,000s in savings. She bought stuff that she and Chris would need when she moved into her new place. In early November of that year, she finally brought up divorce to Bart, but he wheedled and begged and convinced her to stay with him through Christmas. For the boys' sake.
Of course. It's always for the kids.
A few weeks later, Chris ghosted Jen. They'd been in the habit of emailing constantly throughout each day, and then suddenly radio silence. Jen was frantic. Finally, he got back to her, but something had changed. The emails were curt, and he didn't answer questions. Jen finally let him have it, telling him that he needed to say to her, WTF was going on. So the truth came like a flaming dumpster fire. Chris was really a woman named Anita Hearn in Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Although they had been romantic on email, Anita pointed out that she'd been careful to avoid references to genitalia, as if this mattered.
Oh, okay.
Come on.
What?
No, you still...
Ugh.
You know, she was just vulnerable, and she found someone who, you know...
No wonder she was most emotionally available, because it was a woman.
Yeah, right. Then there's that. Of course she was empathetic. She was a woman. Anyway.
Yeah.
We love her, guys, but, you know, often...
I mean, mine's great.
Yeah, yours is great. So we're not painting everyone with the same brush, but honestly, yeah. So, Jen had felt what she thought was a real connection with this person for months, so she cut off contact with Anita and grieved. But after a while, she reached out again, and she and Anita began corresponding again, and she forgave Anita. This was a surprise to everyone who knew her, because as far as anyone knew, she was straight and never expressed any romantic or sexual interest in other women. After a while, the two women discussed sticking to Jen's original plan to leave Bart and for Jen and the kids to join Anita in Missouri. So maybe this wasn't a romantic relationship, but they definitely had a strong bond in their friendship. Author Anne Rule speculated that Jen was clinging to a way out of her abusive nightmare of a marriage, and this was like the support that could help it happen. This could have been the catalyst, and I think there's something to that. At any rate, Jen intended to leave Bart, and as any true crime aficionado knows, that's the most dangerous time for a woman, when the male in the relationship knows that the woman is leaving. And unfortunately, that's just facts. That's just statistics. On Thanksgiving Day, Bart found out about the affair after rummaging around and snooping in Jen's purse. He found a stack of printed out emails from Chris. Yeah. Everyone could tell something was eating at Bart during dinner. And then that nightmare in a necktie punched her in the face when everyone had left for the evening, in front of the kids.
Oh. Oh.
Terrified, Jen packed a bag, scooped up the kids, and went to stay with her sister Heather. Poor little Dalton, the older of the two, he was so scared, and he practically velcroed himself to Jen's side for days after this, afraid his dad would hurt her again. Bless his little angel heart. And when Jen went back home again, she was terrified of setting Brad off. On December 1st, Jen returned from a run to find that Bart had gone through her personal belongings again and stolen her cell phone, calling all of the numbers in her contact list. Jen was upset and demanded her phone back, but Bart denied knowledge of what she was talking about. When she tried to confront him about it, he ran out the front door of their house wearing only a towel. What a treat for the neighbors that must have been. Bart jumped in his car, towel and all, while Jen called 911. Bart began backing the car towards her. Jen tried to jump out of the way, but didn't quite make it, and he backed over her foot. Oh my God. Yeah. He left a nasty bruise, but fortunately there were no broken bones. But things were ugly. Jen took the kids and escaped back to her sisters. Heather was horrified when Dalton uncannily told her, "I'm scared that Dad's going to kill Mommy." My heart. Heather tried to take control of the situation and called Bart's brother and his mother, but nobody took it seriously. Even Jen reassured Heather, "Oh no, Bart wouldn't kill me. He wouldn't hurt his kids like that." Jen wanted to stay away, but the problem is that in these cases, divorce lawyers tell you not to leave the marital home or it counts as abandonment and you lose everything. Honestly, this has to change. I have been in the same position, and I know many other women who've been in this situation as well. It is so dangerous and unnecessary. We need to stop this nonsense. At best, it's unnecessarily uncomfortable and depressing, and at worst, it's risky and toxic and potentially life-threatening to require people to cohabitate in order to protect your right to your home. So on December 2nd, since Jen didn't want to risk losing her house, she went home again. And on December 3rd, Bart made plans to go out drinking with his brother Bobby and some friends while Jen stayed home with the kids. And we know what Dalton found the next morning when he went to wake his mother up for breakfast. From the start, Jen's family knew it wasn't suicide. They knew Jen had no interest in guns and had never owned one herself. But Bart owned a shotgun. Jen had been concerned enough about the gun to mention it to her parents a few days before she died. Heather was so convinced that Bart murdered her sister, she called 911 trying to reach the sheriff that she knew personally. The autopsy put the final nail in the coffin of the suicide theory. First, there was no alcohol in Jen's system at the time of her death, making it pretty evident that the wine bottle and half-empty glass were just props, elements of crime scene staging. Plus, the medical examiner determined that the path of the bullet had severed Jen's brainstem, cutting all motor function, meaning that it would have been impossible for her to move after that. And the first responders found the gun under the covers. Somebody had to have put it there. And that somebody could not have been Jen. So Jen's cause of death was a single gunshot wound, and the manner of death was homicide. Since Bart wasn't cooperating with the investigation, the police quietly kept surveilling him, and soon learned an interesting bit of info. Bart had filed for divorce shortly before the murder. As the hours and days went by after the murder, Bart continued to distance himself from his kids. When Heather and her husband asked Bart if they could come and pick some of the boys' clothes up and the Christmas presents that their mom had wrapped and put aside for the boys, Bart refused. That kind of cruelty has a chilling weight to it. It's not just heartless, it's deliberately soul-bruising. And to make a tragic situation worse, Bart insisted on cremating Jen's remains. Jen's poor mother, Narda, objected, sharing that she wanted a chance to say goodbye to her daughter. The mortician took pity on Narda and allowed her a few hours with Jen's body before the cremation took place. And afterwards, Narda begged Bart for the cremains so they could have a little ceremony at home with the boys. He grudgingly allowed this and then quickly reminded the family that Jen's remains were his property and they needed to return them ASAP.
Oh, okay. Sounds good, bro.
Dr. Carlton Hearn and his wife attended the funeral. They had driven hours to be at Jen's funeral, to pay their respects to a woman they'd never met in life. As people filed out of the church after the service, they expressed their sympathies to Jen's mother, Narda, and father, Max. Although they had never met Jen in person, they were very familiar with Bart Corbin.
Oh, I was like, who are these people?
Before we learn that, it's time for a chart note. Chart
Chart note. Oh my gosh. We both dipped down. Unplanned.
Welcome to Chart Notes, the section where we learn about what's happening in medicine and healthcare.
Bazinga.
I had to take a sip of my wine for this one because Alley Cats and Amanda. Alley Cat Amanda.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, am I not an alley cat?
You are.
Have I not earned my badge?
You have. This is an article from New York Times from June 6th, written by Brian Rosenthal. And I'm just going to read you the article because I couldn't rewrite it. I couldn't summarize it in any way. You just need to hear this article. You ready?
You ready?
A federal investigation found a Kentucky nonprofit pushed hospital workers towards surgery despite signs of revival in patients. 4 years ago, an unconscious Kentucky man began to awaken as he was about to be removed from life support so that his organs could be donated. Even though the man cried, pulled his legs to his chest, and shook his head, officials still tried to move forward. Now, a federal investigation has found that officials at the nonprofit in charge of coordinating organ donations in Kentucky ignored signs of growing alertness, not only in that patient, but also in dozens of other potential donors.
Oh my gosh.
The investigation examined about 350 cases in Kentucky over the past 4 years, in which plans to remove organs were ultimately canceled. It found that in 73 instances, officials should have considered stopping sooner because the patients had high or improving levels of consciousness. Although the surgeries didn't happen, the investigation said multiple patients showed signs of pain and distress while being readied for the procedure. Most of the patients eventually died hours or days later, but some recovered enough to leave the hospital, according to an investigation by Federal Health Resources and Services Administration, whose findings were shared with the New York Times. The investigation centered on an increasingly common practice called donation after circulatory death. Unlike most organ donors who are brain dead, patients in these cases have some brain function, but are on life support and not expected to recover. Often, they're in a coma. If family members agree to donation, employees of a nonprofit called an organ procurement organization begin testing the patient's organs and lining up transplant surgeons and recipients. Every state has at least one procurement organization, and they often station staff in hospitals to help manage donations. Typically, the patient is taken to an operating room where hospital workers withdraw life support and wait. The organs are considered viable for donation only if the patient dies within an hour or two. If that happens, the procurement organization's team waits 5 more minutes and then begins removing organs. Strict rules are supposed to ensure that no retrieval begins before death or causes it. The investigation criticized Kentucky Organ Donor Affiliates, which was coordinating donations in the state. Now called Network for Hope after a merger, it has said it always follows the rules and never removes organs until a hospital has declared a patient dead. But the investigation found that the organization's employees repeatedly pressured families to authorize donation, improperly took over cases from doctors, and tried to push hospital staff to remove life support and allow for surgery even if there were indications of growing awareness in patients. Some employees failed to recognize that hospital sedatives or illegal drugs could mask patients' neurological condition, meaning that they might be in better shape than they seemed. In December 2022, a 50-year-old overdose victim began stirring less than an hour after being taken off life support, and he started looking around. The retrieval attempt was not immediately ended, nor was the patient given any explanation. The patient had no idea what was going on, but was becoming more aware by the minute, records noted. After 40 more minutes, when the patient's organs would no longer qualify for donation, the attempt was finally called off, and he was moved to an intensive care unit. He later sat up and spoke with his family before dying 3 days later, the investigation found. Overall, the investigation flagged 103 cases as having concerning features and said problems were more likely to occur at rural hospitals. It noted more than half of the transplants arranged by the Kentucky organization were from circulatory death patients, which were above the national average. Nationwide, officials recovered about 20,000 organs from this type of donor last year, nearly double the total in 2021, according to the Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network, which oversees the transplantation system. Federal regulators told the network last week that the Kentucky organization must increase training for staff and conduct neurological assessments on potential organ donors every 12 hours, among other changes. On Thursday, the organization said it received a report about government investigation. We will fully comply with all of their suggested recommendations, it said in a statement. The federal inquiry began last fall after a congressional committee heard testimony about the Kentucky man, Anthony Thomas Hoover II, who had an overdose in 2021. He was unresponsive for 2 days before his family agreed to donate his organs. Over the next 2 days, the procurement organization moved toward surgery even as his neurological condition improved, the investigation found. During one exam, records show, he was thrashing on the bed. He was sedated to prevent further motion.
Oh my gosh.
The hospital staff was extremely uncomfortable with the amount of reflexes that the patient was exhibiting, case notes read. Hospital staff kept stating that this was euthanasia. A procurement organization coordinator assured them it was not. When Mr. Hoover was taken for the retrieval, records show he cried, pulling his knees to his chest and shaking his head. A hospital doctor refused to withdraw life support. Mr. Hoover eventually recovered. Now 36, he has lingering neurological injuries. In interviews with the Times, 2 former employees of the procurement organization said higher-ups tried to pressure the doctor to continue the retrieval attempt. If it had not been for that physician, we absolutely 1,000% would have moved forward, said one of them, Natasha Miller, who was in the room. 3 other former Kentucky employees said they'd seen similar cases. The investigation did not say if there was pressure on doctors who treated Mr. Hoover. The Network for Hope did not respond to a request for comment on that case. I wonder why.
Yeah, shocking.
The Kentucky Attorney General's office also launched an investigation into Mr. Hoover's case. On Thursday, the office said that the review was ongoing.
Wow. What the fuck?
This is my worst nightmare.
I was just thinking, like, can you imagine someone writing in a medical mishap like, well, everyone thought I was going for organ donation, but I woke up and people were trying to take my organs. Oh my God.
I used to be like, should I donate my organs? Because selfishly, does that mean they're not going to try to keep me alive? But then now I'm like, well, what if I'm already alive? They're just like, dude, we need your heart.
Yeah. And they're like, too bad, lady. Scary.
Oh man, no, organ donations are good. This is super rare, but very scary, and just happening now. So, whew.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy.
yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, everyone, for that nightmare. Let's go back to our other nightmare. So back to the case. To recap, Jen never knew anything much about Bart's past. It was something that had always really bothered her, and her family was about to learn Bart's best-kept secret. See, Dr. Carlton Hearn and his wife Barbara knew Bart Corbin extremely well. 14 years ago, when Bart was in dental school, their daughter Dolly had been involved with Bart and broken up with him. Dolly died shortly after breaking up with him. The cause of death was a gunshot wound to the head.
Oh my God.
And the local police named the manner of death as a suicide. But the Hearn family knew otherwise. For 14 years, they'd been waiting to bring the truth to light and bring Dr. Corbin to justice. They knew that Bart Corbin had killed their daughter Dolly, and now he'd done it again and killed Jen.
Oh.
They wanted to ensure that this time, Bart would pay. And that's part 1, Alley Cats. We'll have more on this case next week for part 2. I know.
Oh my God. You jerk. Right when we're just clinging on. Oh my God. Speechless. I was not expecting that. I've definitely never heard of this case.
Well.
Oh my God. I have so many thoughts. Okay. So the Hearns must be nearby this guy still if they're keeping tabs on him. Maybe. I'm sure we'll find out.
I don't think they're in another state, but they had spent 14 years really keeping an eye on things. And
Oh my god. Oh my gosh. So there'll be an integral part to cracking the case, perhaps. And maybe justice for Dolly. Maybe they can change her death certificate. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I don't even remember. Did Bart see them? Did Bart see them? He's going to poop his pants when he sees them. Okay. Well, I will be looking forward to part 2. Holy cat's pajamas. This one's wild.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, wait till part 2. And then if you're still interested, read the book. Because I tell you what, Anne Rule is such a good author. She's so compassionate. And she was the only journalist that was allowed like direct access to the families because they just, bared their souls to her, and she got to know everybody as if they were, she treats the victims and their families like long lost friends. I don't know. There's something to her very tender way of supporting the victims and their families that I just find so heartwarming. But anyway, yeah, so that's a good book to read. Too Late to Say Goodbye by Anne Rule. Anyway, shall we cheer
Yeah,
up
I think
with a
so.
Medical
I think
mishap?
so. You want me to take it on?
I do, and I'm so excited for you to read this because
you read it?
Yeah, because I picked it because
okay,
it's about a dental assistant. It's from a dental assistant.
Oh my God. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so you guys, she didn't share this document with me till literally before we started hitting record, so I have not heard this before either, so let's do it. Okay. It says, ladies, I am so loving your pod and have been telling all of my dental colleagues about it as well. Thank you so much for that. And didn't know we were going to be so deep versed into the dental world, but happy to be there with you guys.
Teeth and dentists and dental assistants.
We love teeth. Oral health care. So important. Okay, so then this person goes on to say, you guys can't get enough of us lately, and we feel the same about you two. LOL. I'm here to say that not all dentists are evil, I swear. Okay, so I've been a dental assistant for over 15 years. I've seen it all. People fainting at the sight of a toothbrush, patients who think TikTok oil pulling can replace flossing, the works. I've never seen that.
Do you want it? I had to look it up too. So oil pulling is apparently something that went viral, like it goes back to like Ayurvedic medicine, where they claim that like swishing essential oils in your mouth can get rid of all your dental problems and can solve mental fatigue, or I don't know, all kinds of stuff that's not been proven. So, yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Good. But this person goes on to say, but this one still tops my list. A few years ago, I had a new patient come in, super chatty, probably in her late 60s. Let's call her Barbara. We're doing a full exam, and I ask her to remove any dental appliances. She says, oh, sweetie, I don't have dentures. All mine. Okay, cool. We go ahead with the cleaning. I start scaling her teeth, or her lower teeth, and think, wow, these are in great shape. Then I move to the uppers and something feels off, like suspiciously off. So I poke gently, and I swear to God, her entire upper teeth, in quotes, come out in one clean piece. Like a perfect white dental mask just popped off. Barbara stares at me wide-eyed and goes, well, I'll be damned. I forgot I had a partial. She forgot her dentures. Apparently, they were so well fitted and comfortable that she hadn't removed them in weeks. She thought they were just her new strong teeth, thanks to calcium chews and positive thinking. I had to excuse myself to go into the hallway because I was laugh crying so hard that I had to go compose myself and change my soggy mask. Moral of the story, when a patient says, they're all mine, ask for a follow-up, because sometimes they technically are. They just came from a lab first. Stay safe and stay suspicious of your patient's teeth. Love, Molly.
Molly.
Thank you, Molly.
How perfect was that, though? We have a little lighthearted dental story after all this.
And reassurance from Molly that not all dentists are evil. Thank you, Molly.
Oh. Well, you've been yawning. That might be the perfect segue into our next promo.
It's like 7:00 is my pumpkin time. I don't know. Tell me about why this is perfect.
CozyEarth.com. I'm still on that train. I'm telling you, I have washed my Cozy Earth bed set I don't know how many times now. And, I had the idea of like doing rotation with like my normal boring sheets with the bamboo sheets. And I just can't wait to get the bamboo sheets back on. They are so nice, especially in the summer. And it's kind of humid and I can't figure out what temperature I need to be. It's that premium viscose bamboo that's so comfortable and just keeps your temperature cool, wicks the moisture. It's just perfect for hot sleepers seeking a restful night's sleep. Don't forget they have pajamas and towels, all kinds of beautiful things. So if you're interested, this is by far, I keep coming back to it because their products are so good, but also their discount is amazing. 41% off, but that's not just their normal discount. That's their discount through us. So because you guys know us, you're welcome. You get 41% off if you go to CozyEarth.com and use promo code SUSPICIOUS. That's CozyEarth.com, promo code SUSPICIOUS.
Just to clarify, because this is the first time our promo code has not had the word stay in it. Is it just suspicious?
Nope, it's just suspicious.
Interesting. Okay. Just wanted to clarify before people go shopping.
Good point. I would say we may have a correction section on our hands. I'm I don't remember changing that. So if suspicious doesn't give you 21 or 41% off, add the word stay.
Add the word stay. Yeah.
And I'm glad somebody's on point. This is what happens when
it's either stay suspicious or suspicious. So yeah, just try both. Okay, well, I guess you'll have us on the edge of our seats until next week. So until then, don't miss a beat. Subscribe or follow Doctoring the Truth wherever you enjoy your podcasts for stories that shock, intrigue, and educate. Trust, after all, is a delicate thing. You can text us directly on our website at doctoringthetruth@buzzsprout.com. Email us your own story ideas, medical mishaps, and comments at doctoringthetruth@gmail.com. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Doctoring the Truth Podcast and Facebook at Doctoring the Truth. We're on TikTok at Doctoring the Truth and EdOddPod. Don't forget to download, rate, and review so we can be sure to bring you more content next week. Until then, stay safe and stay suspicious.
Bye.
Goodbye.